Today I'm going to be going over the symbolism that can be found regarding some of the characters in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. I'll be sharing the possible origins of each character as well as some interpretations of their presence, either from what I've researched or come up with using my own analyses. So without further ado, let's just hop on down the rabbit hole. First we have the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat is probably one of the most well-known characters in Alice in Wonderland, if not in all of children's literature. Be that as it may, it's actually unknown how exactly Carroll came up with his idea for this character. Some have speculated that the actual illustration of Cheshire Cat resembles the famous cheeses of Cheshire County in England, which were made in the shape of smiling cat faces. Unfortunately, I could not find a picture of these cheeses, so I made my own, showing vaguely what one could imagine the cheeses look like. Another theory is that Carroll based Cheshire Cat off of the actual cats in Cheshire. Because Cheshire was teeming with dairy farms, milks and creams were abundant there. Therefore, it was said that the cats of the area indulged regularly, and to grin like a Cheshire Cat implies that one is overjoyed in content. Let's move on to the possible interpretations for Cheshire Cat. Most people believe that Cheshire Cat is meant to be a sort of god and spirit to Alice. Those that make this claim refer to when they first met, somewhat towards the beginning of the book. The cat directs Alice to the March Hare's house, and by following his directions she eventually comes to the garden, where she had been longing to go. Another time Cheshire Cat acted as a guardian was when he appeared on the croquet grounds and asked Alice how she was faring. When she had nothing but negativity to share about her situation and the Queen, the Cheshire Cat acts as a sort of distraction for the time being. This seemed to relieve a little bit of the tension that had accumulated up to that point. This interpretation is one I came up with myself. From my analysis of the book, I have concluded the Cheshire Cat is a catalyst for madness. This can be taken in two separate ways. First up, we can view Cheshire Cat as the bringer of madness. A good example of such a character would be the fictional and personified embodiment of mayhem from the Allstate commercials. Mayhem brings about, well, mayhem everywhere he goes, and his presence is shown to be the cause of it. This can be compared to how whenever Cheshire Cat shows up, things seem to get chaotic almost immediately afterwards. That is the tea party and the commotion on the croquet grounds. Or Cheshire Cat could be something akin to Absol. Absol is a creature that is known in the Pokemon universe to appear whenever there is some sort of natural disaster. Therefore, the people that view Absol become frightened of it, as they associate it with being the cause of the disasters. But in reality, Absol only senses the disasters and appears to people to warn them of their arrival. Cheshire Cat could very well be seen as having this unfortunate role as well. The next character I would like to analyze is the Hatter, otherwise known as the Mad Hatter, even though this name is never given to him in the original text. It is just about certain that the Mad Hatter was based off of actual hat makers in the 1800s, who largely suffered from mercury poisoning due to their profession and exposure to the stuff. Mercury poisoning has been known to cause symptoms similar to madness or insanity. This would explain the Mad Hatter's quirky and extremely whimsical behavior and mannerisms. Some say that Mad Hatter's appearance was based off of a man that John Tyndall, the illustrator of Alice in Wonderland, would have known in real life, Theophilus Carter, an eccentric furniture salesman who was known for wearing a top hat and having wacky business ideas. And now on to some interpretations for the Mad Hatter's character. Many say that the Tea Party is a parallel to society, or at least society of the 1800s. Tea parties of that time period were seen as formal settings, where strict protocols and rules must be followed, lest one should appear rude or uncivilized. The depiction of a tea party as a wild and chaotic event such as the one in the book was unheard of and went against every social norm of the time. With the Mad Hatter being at the helm of this insanity, it is only natural to associate him with chaos and disorder. Another way to look at the Hatter is by viewing the effects of mental illness. As stated above, mercury poisoning is a serious disease, and its effects on the psyche and mental wellness of an individual are quite alarming. Having a look into the mind of a Mad Hatter really makes you realize just how mad a person really can be. The Queen of Hearts is our next target for analysis, and we shall begin with some possible origins for her character. The first claim I have found is that the Queen of Hearts was a reference to Queen Margaret of the House of Lancaster. During the War of the Roses in the 1400s, The House of Lancaster used an image of a red rose as their symbol, while their rivals, the House of York, used a white rose. It is speculated that the gardeners of the story painted the roses red as a reference to this conflict. Another theory is that the Queen of Hearts was a caricature of Queen Victoria. The reason people say this is because Queen Victoria would have been a recognizable figure at the time of the book's publication. Now on to some interpretations. Some say that the Queen of Hearts symbolizes the heart of Alice's conflict. After all, everyone in Wonderland knows and fears her, and many of the problems Alice encounters seem to be caused by her. Playing off of that last idea, the Queen is often thought to be the villain, especially in Disney's and Tim Burton's versions of the tale, but in fact she is just another obstacle Alice must face during her journey through Wonderland. She challenges Alice's perception of reality and forces her to think in ways she normally wouldn't, just like everything else on her adventure. The White Rabbit is our next character. There is only one possible origin I could find while doing my research. Henry Little, Dean of Christ Church, Oxford. He was father to Alice Little, the girl for whom Lewis Carroll wrote his masterpiece. Dean Little was well known for constantly being late to his services, much like the White Rabbit profusely declares his tardiness throughout the book. Many people believe the rabbit to be the trigger to Alice's spiritual awakening. After all, it is him that she follows into the rabbit hole that leads to Wonderland. If it weren't for him, none of the events of the book would have happened. Additionally, the White Rabbit could be seen as a symbol for Alice's quest. Throughout the book, right up until the end, he has a single-track mind. His only concern is being on time so as not to upset the Queen, whereas Alice's only concern is getting back home. Finally, of course, we have to take a look at the story's main tale, Alice. The origin of Alice's character has been confirmed, unlike the others. Alice Little was the model for the character of Alice. Little was a 10-year-old girl that Carroll had befriended. Carroll made up the tale of fictional Alice during a boat trip, and real Alice begged him to write it down so that she could read it repeatedly. 2 years later, he granted the girl's wish and gave her the first handwritten and illustrated copy of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The interpretations of Alice are pretty easy to understand and conceptualize. The first, most popular translation is that Alice's tale is one of growing up and making the transition from childhood to adulthood. This theory is supported by the repeated examples of how Alice must use critical thinking skills, perseverance, and dedication in order to reach her goal of returning home safely. My own interpretation is that Alice is a manifestation of a sort of identity crisis, if you will. In the very beginning of the book, we hear her thoughts of how she is questioning her own identity, suggesting that she might have become one of the other children that she knew from her town. Then, later on, the caterpillar asks the question, "Who are you?" To which Alice simply replies, "I hardly know, sir," and proceeds to explain how she knew who she was when she awoke but does not know anymore. This suggests that she believes her very identity to be at stake, and this is a theme that a lot of people can relate to at some point in their lives, sometimes several times. Carroll himself made a drastic change in life, where, before he met Alice and wrote this novel, he was a mere mathematician at a university. There are surely plenty of other symbols in this book to analyze, as many scholars and professors have done before. In conclusion, I would like to say that exploring the symbolism of this classic tale has been quite a journey all on its own. And to you, the viewer, I just want to say thank you.